Today's lesson is about run-ons and fragments. Run-ons and fragments are problems in people's writing. These are grammar errors that you want to avoid. So run-ons. A run-on sentence is when you forget to put a period at the end of your sentence and the sentence keeps going for a really long time and there are many complete thoughts that are not separated with punctuation, and all of these sentences are confusing. So let's take this run-on and turn it into something that actually is understandable by the reader. So a run-on sentence is when you forget to put a period at the end of your sentence. That is the end of a complete thought. Now you need a capital letter. The sentence keeps going on for a really long time. That's the end of a sentence. But you need a comma, and now you've got your coordinating conjunction there. So the sentence keeps on going for a really long time, comma, and there are many complete thoughts that are not separated by any form of punctuation. That is the end of a complete thought. These sentences are confusing. That's another complete thought. But run-ons are not always long. Sometimes run-ons can be very short. I like to sail. My kids get motion sickness. These are two complete thoughts that are joined with just a comma. The comma by itself is not strong enough to join two complete thoughts together. You need some other form of punctuation. There are 4 ways to fix a run-on like this. The first thing that you can do is put a period between the complete thoughts. I like sailing, period, capital M. My kids get motion sickness. So that's one way that you can solve that problem. Another way that you can solve it is by connecting those 2 thoughts with one of your fanboys. I like sailing, comma, but my kids get motion sickness. A next way that you can connect these 2 thoughts is with a semicolon. A semicolon is one of these fancy pieces of punctuation that everyone is scared of using, but if you know how to use them correctly, they may work, but just make sure you don't use too many of them. I like sailing is a complete thought. Semicolon, my kids get motion sickness. A semicolon is exactly the same type of punctuation as a period. The only difference between a semicolon and a period is that the semicolon is saying there's a direct relation between these 2 ideas. Another way that you can join these 2 thoughts together is by connecting them using a dependent clause signal. So, although is a dependent clause signal. Although I like sailing, comma, my kids get motion sickness. Sentence fragments are when the sentence is missing a vital component of that sentence. Every single sentence needs to have a subject, it needs to have a verb, and it needs to express a complete thought. A sentence fragment is missing one of these 3 things. Like shoes. Like shoes is a fragment because it's missing a subject. They shoes. They shoes is a fragment because it's missing a verb. Since they like shoes is a fragment because it has that dependent clause signal at the beginning of it. It needs to have something else after it there. This one is a sentence fragment because it's not a complete thought. To fix a sentence fragment, there's a couple of things that you need to do. If it's missing a subject, you need to add a subject. So in our sentence from before, now we've got a subject, they. They like shoes. Now that's a complete thought. If it's missing a verb, like our sentence before, they shoes, which is not a complete thought, what you're going to do is add a verb, they like shoes. And if it's missing a complete thought, because it has that dependent clause signal, you're going to add that second clause to make it a complete thought. Since they like shoes, comma, they bought many new pairs. So to recap, run-ons and fragments are bad things. You want to avoid these things in your writing because they confuse the reader. You need to punctuate between your sentences to show where one complete thought finishes and another complete thought starts. Make sure that your sentences have these 3 things: They have a subject, they have a verb, and they express a complete thought.